Today's webinar and video is all about writing for the web. Our subject matter expert today is Paul Lalonde. He's the content manager of MarketingWise, but he has a very varied background, working even for the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, working on their web copy, as well as working for hundreds of small business owners as well as medium-sized companies in terms of helping them with the content on brochures, on white papers, as well as, of course, their websites. So just jumping in, he actually did a webinar for us before. It was entitled Make Your Words Count. And it's all about starting with writing best practices in general. So in general, writing best practices include these three key components. Number one, the inverted pyramid. And again, just making it simple here is that means putting the keywords first. So if the most important benefit to your customer is ABC, well, that should be the very first thing in your copy. The second is use the active voice. So basically putting all of your nouns up front and keeping it simple and do this, move forward, that type of thing. And next, know your audience. Make sure that all of your copy, all of your messaging is something that your audience cares about and will respond to. So you really have to know how they're thinking. It's more than just knowing that they're 35 and male. That's one thing. But knowing their audience. Are they a soccer player? What really responds to them? Do they care about their health, their family? What really is going to tie into their psyche? So these same lessons apply for the web as well. But there are a few things that are a little bit different about the web, or that are even more important in the web. Number one is keeping it simple. And we're going to expand on this shortly. Number two, scannability. So when people come to your site, can they actually find what they need, and is the information in the places that they're actually going to be looking? And then finally, and actually searchability is moving down the line, because it's not just about searchability and search engine optimization and having the keywords there and being found on Google, which is great, but content is actually, and having the content easy and that you can navigate to it is just as important. So content is actually starting to take out searchability. So that makes Netwriting even more important. So digging down into these concepts a little bit closer here, or a little bit further, is keep it simple. So typically your website has 30 seconds to make an impression. And within that 30 seconds, your viewers either continue reading or they click away. A good amount of time to spend on your website, or what you're kind of striving for, is about 2 minutes. And really, within that 2-minute time, your potential client should have seen the call to action, done that, found the information that they're looking for, and it should have simple enough navigation that they would have found that. Now, when we say 30 seconds, to be honest, it probably is a lot quicker than that. People sometimes come to your site, and within 2 seconds they know that that site is not for them. But really, within 30 seconds, you have to make that impact. So the key way to address that and help and keep it simple is really focus on pain points, and that goes back to knowing your audience. So really, the pain points here. And if we just jump into the second part here, is think about the problems of Google that they are thinking about and that they're Googling to get to your site. So what is the Google search phrase that they're actually using to find you? So the example here is actually one of Paul's clients, and they basically are an organizer, and they help declutter people's lives. And so really the first thing at the very beginning is that someone might put cluttered or disorganized. So those are two keywords that someone would have actually searched for. A cluttered and disorganized house affects your whole family. And so that's a pretty severe thing, and yet it responds to the target audience, and it's something that someone might actually be Googling for. So start with your readers' pain points. The next thing beyond keeping it simple is scannability. The key thing here is that for scannability, typically when someone comes to a web page, they read the page all the same way. It's like a Z across your website is what they read. So it starts in the top left-hand corner of your website that they come to. goes across the top, which is what we call the banner. At the far right side is where they actually linger and spend some time often. Then it goes across the page, down, just like a Z, and then over again to the other side. So that's the priority. And really that's why the banner at the top is where you should be focusing the most amount of time. And in the top right side is where you often have your call to action. So having this sort of layout actually helps your readers and makes your copy and your writing easier to digest. Another key thing is to use subheadings. Have lots of white space. A cluttered website is often very difficult for people to digest and read. Have visuals. Pictures speak 1,000 words. They really help. And the new big thing is infographics, what we'll show you in just a bit. Studies show the human eye scans to the top right corner, and that is the key part. You spend the majority of your time, any design work, there. Searchability. So again, this is moving down. Searchability is not simply about keywords and backlinks, although it's still important. The days of just doing that type of stuff to get the attention of the search engines, including Yahoo and Google, are gone. The spiders or the search engines are getting smarter and smarter. They don't fall for all the same old tricks, which is the pure SEO. You actually have to be updating your content regularly and making sure that when people find you that they're staying there because they found what they were searching for. So Google actually verifies that the search and the keywords that people are looking for are actually being found on your website by how long people are there. So your content has to be credible, has to be valuable, has to be useful, and has to be updated. So really that's what Paul does. That's part of what MarketingWise does, and so he's an expert in doing that. So giving meaningful information or you lose them. Many companies, more than ever before, are actually going from just on your website to actually providing follow-up information through newsletters. A great example is one of MarketingWise's clients is actually a vet clinic, and they actually have an entire newsletter of all their clients where they send health information, dietary information, best practices for even not training your dog, but making sure that they are healthy and safe. So content marketing. Here's some examples of content marketing. There's the blog posts. So that's updating your blogs regularly, and that's critical. White papers. White papers is basically a release of maybe even proprietary information, but it would be research that you've acquired or know-how that you have, so basically intellectual property that you're sharing in a very concise format, and we're calling it white papers. So white papers is a little bit more advanced than a blog where they're actually looked at as more credible and looked at as more research. Very common in the technology industry. Another key thing is best practice downloads. So downloading best practices about various topics. Again, with the vet clinic, maybe on their website, there's a whole list of different archived best practices for various breeds. Maybe that is the best practices downloads that they have. And then infographics and slide shares. So infographics, this is a great way to concisely tell a story. And we have two examples here. Basically, these two are designed for actually a mobile phone, but they could be bigger, different sizes here. But the key thing is that you can digest the information very, very rapidly, and you get the gist of what is trying to be conveyed as quickly as possible. So infographics are something that are becoming more and more common because they are quite effective. And as you can see with these ones, if you were scrolling down on your smartphone, you'd be able to digest and see all the content in a very nice manner. It's very appealing to the eye very quickly. So the web has changed, and here are some industry updates that really, when you're doing your net writing, when you're developing the copy for your website, you should be taking into consideration. The first thing is that mobile devices are now the norm. If you're just designing your web copy for just a website, that's wrong. If you're working with a developer who isn't designing it for mobile devices, you have to be careful. Mobile devices are the norm. You have to be thinking about that. So what makes mobile device copy different? Well, shorter sentences, short pages. So not being as long-winded. Sometimes in this case, definitely, less is more. Using bullet points, easier to digest. And if we just go back to the infographics, you can see it's really bullet points. It's easy, very simple words. And then finally, the visuals or the infographics here. So white space is important as well on this, but really making sure that it's shorter is better, and think about the usability of it. Again, all of your web as well as your mobile should all be tied into your social media strategy. They're not separate anymore, and basically the other piece is that with search engine optimization, social media is being ranked higher and higher. So this is a necessary piece to have. Another key part of your web writing and net writing, and something that we did already mention, is the call to action. So asking whoever's coming to your website to actually do something. And it's the beginning of your relationship. This is often placed in the top right-hand corner. And typically it's not that you're asking for a sale. A buy now approach might be a little bit too quick just because someone just landed on your website. Maybe if it is for fashion or something, maybe that's where you have your cart though and other things like that go up in that section. A login, that's where you put things like that. But a really, really popular and effective thing for your call to action is to actually ask people to sign up for your newsletter or to start the conversation with you with your social media. So whatever your goal is, this is the action that you're asking the visitor to make. But probably one of the most common, like I mentioned, is the newsletter. So at this point, if you have any other further questions about any of the content from today's video, please contact Paul Lalonde at paul@marketingwise.ca.